Hello, my name is Kelly Gadigan, and this is presentation number 2 about the Integrated Solid Waste Management Plan for Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And this is going to be about the elements of environmental management. So some of the first elements we're going to go over is the topic and then the stakeholders. So the topic for this management plan is the inclusion of informal actors in Addis Ababa's Integrated Solid Waste Management Plan. So some of the stakeholders in here are going to be the Addis Ababa municipality, as well as just the general Ethiopian federal government. And this is kind of given because the municipality is going to be responsible for the welfare of its citizens. Some of the other stakeholders that are important are the landfill owners and investors. So the main landfill is Repi, which is in the city of Addis Ababa, and that's the main one that's been used that has the landslides, which is the picture that I'm depicting here, where about 113 people, possibly more, were killed. So there's this landfill, but there's also another one that was recently built but isn't being used right now due to some other issues. And this was actually constructed and financed by a French company. So AFD is the French company. And this one is going to be much better once it could actually be used because it is a sanitary landfill versus Repi, which Repi is very improperly managed. It doesn't have liners, it doesn't have leachate collection systems, nothing to monitor landfill gas, and it doesn't cover soil or cover the rubbish with soil or compact the refuse every day, which is one of the main reasons why there's landslides that occur. But this one built by AFD, you can already see the liners in there, and it's much more orderly. So these are some of the investors to be aware of, is the person that actually, or the company that actually owns the landfill, as well as like outside investors, even from other countries. So kind of related to this, another stakeholder is going to be nearby farmers. So this is from the Oromia state. And the Oromia state, you can see from this picture, kind of surrounds and encompasses Addis Ababa, and there's a lot of farming that occurs in here. There's also a lot of other political issues going on in this area. So one thing is that the farmers in this part are actually kind of protesting against the new landfill that AFD built, which is why it's not really being used right now, because they claimed that there was groundwater pollution from it and that it's taking away farmland and some other issues. So that's one of the main reasons this landfill is not being used, and so they went back to using the one that's in Repi, which has a lot of other problems. But if they could transition to this one that AFD built, it could be better for the general population. There's just some other considerations, other stakeholders that have to be taken into account. Some of the other stakeholders are the informal actors that were mentioned in presentation number 1. So this would be the scavengers, the collectors, as well as the wholesalers and the retailers that are involved in the informal waste market system. Some of the other stakeholders are, of course, the Addis Ababa citizens and the customers. The customers could be the people that purchase the plastics that are in the informal waste system. And then there's also environmental groups that are either local or internationally involved that are just interested in waste management and making sure that pollution is controlled. So going on to some of the vision and some of the goals. So the vision statement for this management plan is to provide ethical inclusion and integration of informal actors in Addis Ababa's Integrated Solid Waste Management Plan. There are 3 main goals involved within this plan. The first is to provide informal actor training and education. The second is for informal and formal actor communication to be developed. And then the third is figuring out the timeline for informal actor inclusion. So the objective for goal number 1 is to properly educate the informal actors on things like the workplace safety hazards, the use and how to gather materials for personal protective equipment, the hazards that are associated with the waste that they're dealing with, also the proper techniques for handling that waste, as well as trying to encourage the waste pickers, scavengers, collectors to form cooperatives. So the picture here is actually a waste picker cooperative that was formed in India. This is just one of many. Swatch is a popular one. So Addis Ababa could use other countries as a template for how to do this. The objective for goal number 2 is to lay a foundation for, as well as increase communication between the formal and the informal actors. This is going to be important to provide effective, efficient, reliable, and timely collection and processing of the waste. And objective number 3 is to not only create a timeline for including the informal actors, but also figuring out a timeline to phase out parts of the informal actors. So what I mean by this is that we have to figure out whether we're going to just include every informal actor in the city right away in the plan, or if it's going to be region by region within the city municipality, and if it's going to be just scavengers or collectors or everyone. So that's a lot of resources and funding that will be important for this, so we'd have to figure out the exact timeline. There's also the part of trying to phase out certain parts of the informal actors. So one of the biggest things of this is scavengers on the landfills. And this would want to be phased out for several reasons. One, it's very dangerous for the people involved, so this is a huge source of that workplace safety hazard. You have machines running around as well as lots of waste that people are digging through, and it's not very healthy or safe. So we want to transition the collectors or the scavengers to just going door to door, thereby minimizing their interaction with heavy equipment and lots of waste before it becomes an issue. This would also be important for environmental reasons, because if humans and cattle, as you can see from this picture, were not involved on the landfill grounds itself, except for formal actors operating the heavy machinery, then more proper landfill practices could also be implemented. So this would be like covering the soil covering the refuse with a layer of soil at the end of each day, and that's going to minimize insect and animal infestations, as well as help reduce odors and help it be more aesthetically pleasing as well. And it also helps provide a little bit of a layer for like groundwater as well as like rainwater intrusion, which helps create the leachate that can then spread into the groundwater and is very toxic. So it can also help minimize wildfires that can start from garbage. And there's smoke that's more toxic because it's materials that really shouldn't be burning. So there's a lot of ways this could be both beneficial for the environment and for humans. Here are some references for you to look at, and I thank you for watching presentation number 2.